I can see. That's nice. Dear family, no, it's okay. Dear family, assalamu alaikum. Let us begin today's Taleem with the first chapter of the Muslim Holy Book in the Quran entitled Al-Fatiha. We will give it in its original language and then give an English rendering. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. A translation is, I seek refuge with God from Satan, the rejected enemy, and with God's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer, the complete and perfect praise is for God, the Lord, keeper, sustainer, the evolver of all the worlds, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer, sole owner of the day of judgment. You alone do we worship, in thine aid we seek. Show us the straight way, the way of those on whom thou hast bestowed thy grace, not the way of those who earned your anger, nor the way of those who have gone astray. Ameen. Again, beginning with God's name, we say, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa amma ba'd. And that is, we witness that God is one, that there's no God but God, and we witness that Muhammad is his slave servant and his messenger, and what follows that salutation. Again, we welcome you to our first Sunday Taleem at Masjid Bilal in San Antonio, Texas. Special welcome to those of you that are present, as well as a special welcome to our Facebook audience. Praise be to Allah, Masjid Bilal has a very loyal following in Facebook, and we appreciate that support and that following. Today, we have a special treat for you, and we're going to call this Taleem the New Medina Experience. And I think as we go through and go on, you will understand and you will appreciate that. I do feel that I need to say a couple things, because I want to put what we experienced in a context. We don't take for granted that everybody knows our history, part of this association, has been on the journey with us. We don't take that for granted. We're hoping that, I know for a fact, even we have members here at Masjid Bilal that didn't have our experience. They came to Al-Islam through a different orientation, but they found a home in Masjid Bilal. They like what's going on here, and they can support it. So it's always our duty to bring the members along and bring everybody along, so we're all on the same page, even if you don't know how we got where we are. That being said, New Medina, Mississippi, New Medina is 37 years old, and it is a community that is associated and is part of a movement of Al-Islam in America. A movement that began with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and continued with his son, Imam Waliduddin Muhammad. May God be pleased with both of them, forgive them their sins and grant them paradise. This is a very special movement in this nation. And we as a community, not just locally, but we as a national community have a collective yearning, a collective aspiration, a collective desire for establishment. Our soul requires that. And our soul also requires that we can't let anyone else do it for us. We have to do it for ourselves. Your soul requires that. We know that you're not a man or a woman. I don't care what your age is, if somebody else is taking care of you, if somebody else is taking care of your responsibility. So we're aware of that, dear family. So I'm saying all this to say what? You're going to hear different aspects of what we experience. You're going to hear what New Medina, Mississippi is all about. But I also want you to see this in the context of community establishment. And I also want you to understand that what is done one place is not enough for the nation. We can't all fit in New Medina, Mississippi. We can't all fit in Atlanta. We can't all fit in Detroit. I'm talking about as a community. So these are models that help us so that we can, once they're established and they're perfected, we can duplicate them throughout the nation. What I want to do now is connect this idea of New Medina, Mississippi with another idea that Imam Wadafuddin Muhammad radiallahu anhu, may God be pleased with him, shared with us. He had a concept called New Africa. This is not a foreign concept. Do you think New York, New Jersey, New England, these are places that were established in some sense on the model of what came before it, but it also had evolved to another level. In other words, New Africa, though we're connected with the continent of Africa, it is not going to look exactly like Africa, because the people that are establishing it have been evolved and they have experienced different things than our brothers and sisters in Africa. As the Imam put it, we are a new people. So I'm disciplining myself. I'm reeling it in, because there's a whole lot that can be said. But why I'm starting like this is because though New Medina has a different name, it is the same concept, New Africa. And Imam said that New Africa is not necessarily in a geography or in a location. New Africa is a concept and an idea wherein we, the Muslims, are in charge of our environment and in charge of our community, in charge of ourselves. To make it a little clearer, we can have our mayor, we can have our cleaning stores, we can have our grocery stores, we can have our cleaners, all of that. This is New Africa. And we've seen it. Don't our Chinese brothers and sisters have Chinatown? Don't our Jewish brothers and sisters have a town in Koreans? And when you walk into that environment, you are not confused as to where you are. It is clear because the culture is so evident. They even have their original language there, and they have all of those things. Why should we be denied that? We have something to offer and contribute. So as you take this journey with us, as you experience New Medina, Mississippi with us, please see it in the context of us, even the dream of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, having land of our own, property of our own, etc. Establishment of our own. Again, our soul requires that. Others can help us, but they can't do it for us. We have to do it for ourselves. And we do it unapologetically. So with that, dear family, we were blessed. Our delegation had 5 members. You're looking at 4 of us, and you're going to hear from each of us. And the one that is missing is our beloved Imam Akbar Isa, who had to return back to Springfield, Massachusetts. But we have him here on the phone, and at the appropriate time, we will mic him up so that you all can hear and the Facebook audience can hear. Each of us will give our perspective on our experience, highlighting and emphasizing different aspects of it. And I hope that you will get excited, that you will get inspired, and that you will appreciate what Allah has allowed them to do. Because it's not only their victory, It is our victory. We are one community. Allah is our Lord, and we serve and worship only Him. I would like to introduce to you, most of you already know, one of our board members, a sister that works very closely with the senior citizen population in our community, and our dear sister Ebony Shakur Akbar, who will give the first reflection on the experience that we had. Let's bring Sister Ebony all around to Takbir. Takbir.
Allahu Akbar.
Takbir.
Allahu Akbar.
Takbir.
Allahu Akbar.
Assalamu alaikum. I am more than honored to be able to share with all of you the experience that I have, the experience that we all have going through. I'm speaking to the New Medina. And the New Medina. And over it, my husband and I, Mammy, so we had talked many times before about going there because we wanted to know what New Africa was about, what was going on across the country with that, and in Mississippi in particular, because we had heard, a lot of good things. I mean, to know that there has been a place that has been put together by Muslims for Muslims, and it has been going on for some 30-something years. And to know that the model is something that we use. It may not be the exact model, but the model that you can use from them is the model of using excellence, human excellence, to develop your community. That was one of the first things I saw when we arrived. The way I will kind of have you look at my vision of what I saw is that I'll start first with what I learned, and then what I saw that helped me learn the things that I did. What I learned was that this community had purchased land, 60-something acres in the beginning, 63 acres, 64 acres. I learned that the groundbreaking that our beloved Imam, W.B. Muhammad, was there for the groundbreaking. I learned that at that groundbreaking, there were 5,000 people. Now, when you hear that, it makes you go, because if 5,000 people have gathered for anything, for Muslims, we've gathered, other than for Ramadan, for Eid, that's pretty big. That's a big show. I learned that the residents that are at came from all over the country. They were not under just one United States. They came from many different states in the United States, all the way there to build this community. I also learned that those residents that came, they had to leave their jobs that they had. Some of them had really good jobs. Some of them, they left their families to come and establish this community. And when you do that, you know that your faith in Allah has to be big and consistent. And so this is one of the things that I learned that was required for this human excellence that you needed to build and raise. One of the other things that I learned about them was that when they got there and they were trying to do this, it wasn't like there was a welcome committee there waiting. They had people in this area that didn't want them, they didn't know the Muslims, they didn't want them. And Islam, they didn't understand it. But as Allah would have it, they turned that around. And how did they turn it around? With the way they presented themselves. The excellence of Islam is how they did it. Something being built from the ground up as such as this. It has the masjid there. It has a center for events. It has the only Sister Claire Muhammad School in Mississippi. And it has so much beautiful land there. You know, I think about when a lot of us, especially the African American, we were young. We lived in all these cities that we moved into. But we'd always go back to the country to visit somebody in our family. Well, that's kind of what this is. It's rural area, but it is beautiful rural. Everything is green. Everything is green. So when they started building, they did all of these things. They developed a committee to do this, a business committee to focus on this. Because it wasn't just something you could just kind of think about and say, well, we'll do this or do that. No, they had to have a plan, a serious plan. And so this is what they did. So I learned that, I'm learning that. You gotta have a real plan. So I'm going to lead from what they started to do and kind of where they are. New Medina will soon be a municipality, a city. They are waiting on their SIP from the United States. How good is that? Huh? Some of the new projects are having a halal chicken processing plant, healthcare complex, a quasi spa resort. By the way, a spa resort. The brothers have one side, we have our own side. The other thing is the development that you need to be able to do with the people that are not. It's not just with the Islamic community. You have to be able to work with others. They have now developed a partnership with Sunoco Oil. Sunoco Oil is a petroleum company that is based in the United States of America. You're not going to have to go to Saudi Arabia to get the oil. It's going to be right here. And they have already got the building. In addition to that, they have a mini mart that will not sell any alcohol or any other non-halal foods. They have with Sunoco. I mean, Sunoco is like maybe number 4, number 5 in terms of the United States in terms of petroleum companies. That's already built, and they have a restaurant that's halal, kind of more of a fast food type. And the other thing that's really critical about this, they have it on a major highway. Business is passing every day, 24/7. They have people passing there, stopping, looking what they do. They also have another piece of property on the other side of the major highway. It's built and it's ready to go as well. So this shows us, what I learned is that they didn't stop at one thing. In that plan, it was for several things that they wanted to do. And they have done it.
Just excuse me for jumping in, but in case you're not recognizing the oil company, it's also called Sunoco. You might be more familiar with Sunoco. She had a different pronunciation, same thing.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I just want them to be where you are. That's all.
I think one of the other things that's really critical about what they do is developing these partnerships with many others. They're also they have developed a partnership with Dakar, Senegal. And you say, well, that's open Africa. Well, what is it? One of the big things that I learned is that the partnership will start using the Muslim journal for their people in that country to spread, to give information so they'll know our story and we're telling it. That's another critical part of the development. We have to be prepared to tell our story so that people understand who we are. I learned that we are one humanity. I knew that. You know that. We all kind of know that. But I saw it in operation. I have been welcomed many places, but I was welcomed We were welcome. Day in, day out, welcome. And there were people there that had been at the very first retreat 37 years ago and hadn't missed one.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll close this part with this about it. I learned that we have to stop pushing our agenda and start pushing Allah's, because that is the way for us to get to where we're from. Now, what did I see? I'll close with this. What I saw was beauty all around. Comfort and beauty. I saw our people living on 63 acres of land with some of the most beautiful homes you would ever want to think of them. Them, their families, their children, their grandchildren. It was it's the best experience I think I've ever had in terms of looking at something that made me something we might have. The model, how everything kind of fit together. And did they have downs and ups? Yeah, absolutely. That's part of what we have to know. The best part of my experience, one of the most beautiful parts of my experience was I met a 7-year-old little sister from Minnesota. She was there visiting her grandparents this summer. And she had been kind of, I saw her the first day when we had June. And so she was there doing what little kids do. She's kind of making noise. She's tapping on the wall. But I noticed that she seemed to have a rhythm with tapping on the wall. And so I said something to her, and she just smiled, And so the next day I saw her again, and when I saw her this time, she's walking around, she's coming around, and she's singing. And she's just singing, and she's so happy. And so I stopped her, and I, introduced myself to her, and I said, could I video you singing? And she said, yeah, I suppose. So I don't know what I expect. Maybe some little song, whatever. Little child song. Whatever. And she had made up a song about anti-bullying. 7 years. Because of some things that had happened in her schools in Minnesota. And then she had all these instructions in the song about what you should do and how you should do it in order to get rid of it. Now, I'm there because I'm trying to learn how to build this model. What can I do? How do I do it? And how do I get rid of the other stuff that's not good for us that we keep, that we may follow? And this song, which I have on tape, I have a video. I won't necessarily show it because I don't have the permission from parents. But I learned from her in a 3-minute video that we can do things if we just put our mind to it and stick to it. And she just was so polite about giving me the information and telling me how much she loved visiting her grandparents there. But of course she did want to go back home. But she said she loved it. All right, so I will close with this. This was the real part of it that got to my soul and my spirit. I saw and understood in more ways than one. I've heard this song many times by Frankie Beverly called The Golden Time Thing. And I thought I understood it. I felt I did. But when I was there, I understood what it means when the sun is going down and it's turning into gold. I learned that when the winds start to blow very lightly, how it brings to you fresh air and comfort. He says when the wind is blowing lightly and the sun is shining brightly, we you learn that Allah has made you feel all the love inside of you that you always look for. And in this place, far, far away from San Antonio to me, I saw that and felt just sitting outside, not doing anything, just being to allow life. Thank you all
Wonderful, wonderful. Dear family, let's keep it going and let's keep it in the family. Imam Akbar Isa. Alaikum as-salam. You know our brother. Our brother is an imam in the Massachusetts area. He supports and he helps us here. And we value our brother, and we're so glad he had an opportunity to make the trip with us. I yield now to our dear brother Imam Akbar Isa.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Rabbil Alameen. Well, we thank Allah for such a wonderful experience as New Medina, Mississippi. Really, we want to set the vision of our Imam and those, I was going to say, all of our ancestors. Payback. All our ancestors, this is what they were praying for. My speech, my talk, we're going to call it a speech, will be from a political perspective. Now, New Medina, Mississippi, requires that you have to have 1 square mile, which equals to 640 acres of land. Alhamdulillah, we had that. Also, we have to have 3 streets. And alhamdulillah, we have that. The other requirement is that 300 brothers. And pretty soon, inshallah, we will have that. And we don't have to have permission from the town of Central Mississippi. It's in the charter of the state of Mississippi that we will be able to have, as my wife just mentioned, our own postal zip code. Also, the thing that we are looking at, the acreage of land is not expensive. It started out with $2,100 per acre. I think it's only $5,600 per acre right now. Thereabouts, somewhere in there. But then it's going to be going up. So if you're interested, you got to get it now. But it's only about $5,600 or so dollars. From a political perspective, when we become a municipality, it will require us to have certain other aspects that we need, such as, and I will use this term, peace officers. I don't want to use the term police officers or police enforcement. As Imam Ezekiel Pasha out of New York, he said, this is the term he learned that is for the peace officers, not police enforcement. It creates a kind of violence in the mind. And we also, so we're going to have to be able to secure ourselves, our own. So we have to think about having our own peace officers department. And we have to have our own post office, okay? And we have to have our own businesses. We're moving into that as we speak. We have our own masjid already. And we have our community center. We have our leadership. Fine, very fine leadership there at New Medina, Mississippi. And from a political perspective, we all going to have to work on and establish. As we grow, these zoning laws will come into play. And we have to have a city council, or if it's not a city council, something similar. And people will have to run for office to be on the city council. And furthermore, let me say my impression when I got to New Medina. You know, I had certain apprehensions. I'm seeing police shooting, kill people on TV, and what they did in Minnesota, what they're doing in Texas and other places. So I have certain apprehensions about New Medina and what the slaveholders, the ex-slaveholders, and their attitude. But alhamdulillah, we come to find that that's not in existence in New Medina, Mississippi. That's not a reality there now. That's alhamdulillah, because we can remove ourselves, or remove that certain kind of fear that we was all holding in our minds, and go on and live according to the best that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us to do. We have been truly blessed with all of this potential. Also, to establish such a place as New Medina, Mississippi, we have to have a solid, cemented brotherhood. If you're hardly in this, you're not in this. That love that cements the brotherhood, you can't laugh. You're worried about going back home, going back to New York, going back to Los Angeles, or wherever you came from. If New Medina is not in your heart, it's going to be hard for you to stay there because it's war. It's a rural area. And everybody is so wonderful. It's a wonderful establishment. And as a political historian, I shouldn't say that about myself, as a person who studies history, the growing of Medina, city of the lights, enlightenment, that first Medina, that's the one we are trying to follow now. That's the Medina. So we are in the West. This is the new world. As the Imam Omar Shakir was explaining, New Africa, this is the new world. We are building New Medina. And we are building New Medina the same exact way that the Prophet Muhammad established the city of the lights, and that is Medina in Saudi Arabia. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Also, brotherhood and sisterhood in New Medina is so sweet, it's so wonderful, it's hard to leave them. It's hard to get away from. So what happens is, we have Christians trying to live there now. We have Christians who they would not want to live any place else but the Muslims. Furthermore, we have what is known as a Hebrew Israelite who lives there, finding our presence such a wonderful place to live. And there are others. There was a brother who drove the tour bus from the Nation of Islam. And these people are happy. They're very happy to be with the Muslims, with the community of Imam Ibn Muhammad. The brother who drove the tour bus, he is a city councilman. He's a city councilman in the city of Philadelphia, Mississippi. And if you know anything about that history, I'm gonna get into it right now. You would say, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, we have that going on. And in my closing, let me say it this way, that there's an Interstate 55 that leads straight from Mississippi to Chicago. And the people in Mississippi, when they go to Chicago, they go straight to where their family members, cousins, and relatives live. Same family members that just left Mississippi say this is exactly how it's going to be. And the new Medina that we're establishing in Mississippi is going to be established in San Antonio.
Allahu Akbar, Takbir.
We're on a mission.
Yeah.
It's our duty. And this is blessed by Allah. All we have to have, dear family, is faith. Alhamdulillah, I can't speak on this on and on and on. There's so much I can say. But I don't want to, I want to listen to what the others have to say as well. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Takbir. Yes, our brother mentioned the peace officers. I hope I'm not stepping on nobody else, but it's on my mind right now. I just have to say it. Dr. Ali, one of the founding members of that community, said that when they had the groundbreaking and the people came, they invited the sheriff and all of that. They came, and the sheriff said, if everybody was like y'all, we would be out of a job. Acknowledging the good works, the good citizenship of the members of New Medina. So it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. But Imam, you made me think of that when you mentioned the peace officers. So next, we want to bring up another member of our delegation that traveled with us. And by the way, other than myself, this was the first time Sister Ebony, Imam Isa, Brother Doug, Sister Rabia had experienced New Medina. You know, alhamdulillah, I've been blessed to experience it a few times, but every time is different. And the last time might have been 14 years ago, so the progress that they've made is impressive. So we want, one of the beauties of what's happening here today, each person is expressing their experience in real time. And now we will hear from our dear sister, a long-standing member of Masjid Bilal, our dear sister Rabia Joshua. Takbir.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So, me sharing what my experience was, I think I would have to start from the beginning, the idea, knowing about Medina, we're hearing about this is the opportunity to take the trip. First of all, it was that I had always heard of Medina, New Medina, excuse me, and wanted to see it. There was a lot of considerations that had to be made on my part, being that I'm an analytical person. And so I've been in the class with Imam Fahim Shaway and the leadership of the Clear Understanding Institute, and he has been speaking in regards to what I'm going to say in this part. So the first thing I thought of and is like, well now, what's the reason what I want to go? Especially when finding out the details of a 10-hour drive in a car, the financial of it all as well, and not knowing exactly what Medina, New Medina really consisted of. I mean, I had my own ideas, and believe me, I was totally wrong, but it's surprisingly good. So I called the imam, or I might have texted him, and I just told him, maybe we ought to have a conference call, and kind of want to make sure, like, all that's going on this trip, that we have the same purpose, or we're on the same accord. And so we did, and we got on the conference call, and my thing was to make sure that we were going as kind of like the Star Trek away team, which I mentioned. And we were going to get some information and bring it back to the starship of MB. Yeah. And so that's what we did. And so we all talked about it, about what we were looking to do. Yeah, this is some of the things. And then at that point, we had got the actual itinerary of what was going on. So when you go on trips like this, and this is my purpose of this, is that you have questions about, you're going with some people, you know them for years, but you don't really know people until you start traveling with them or have to live with them, so forth and so on. And so it was these things that would come up like, okay, all these itineraries. Now remember, the hotel was 30 miles away from New Medina. And so we have to determine at this point, are we going to stay all day? What time are we going to leave going? You know, and everybody had to be on the same understanding, trying to make sure that at that point, if it don't turn out like we might think, nobody would be disappointed, but we all got to work together, right? And I had my Uber on hold just in case. Just in case. So anyway, so that was what we talked about. And then once we got that settled, my whole thought was, this is going to be a bonding process for the people in that vehicle. Because I already knew Imam, first of all, and you know, you trust people because you're putting your life in their hands when they're behind a 1,000-pound machine driving. That's the analytical side of me, sorting this all out. But I knew Imam had did that because he drove that on his job. I had drove with him going to the prison, so I knew he was a good driver. I knew Brother Doug had to be for the, you know, the profession he had, being someone to escort big objects. I did not know for how Sister Ebony drove, but I know that she was always the mediator. So if anything go down, she would help us solve it if anybody had disagreements. That's the way I thought of it. And then for Imam Akbar, who he's so special. All I knew is he talked fast, and he goes in the 2B, which I mentioned there to him when he talked 2B. That's how he talked. So I knew that. So we already had come to that conclusion myself about that, and I said that's going to be a part of learning more patience as you're in this vehicle going 10 hours for all this time. And then at the end of it all was representing India. And so that's what had took place. Now, after which, the mindset was that under the studying that I had been doing, and I had heard this many times from Imam Fahim, he said that Imam Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of Allah be with him and be pleased with him. He always said that on the basis of, and I had to call the Imam today, this morning about this to give me that surah. It was 87, 1 through 3. Been hearing it all this time, but couldn't find what the surah was. But it's 87, 1 through 3. And it says, glorify your guardian most high, who gave everything its form, its place within the system, its capacity for growth from simple to complex, and its role in the guidance of Allah. And so Imam Muhammad made this statement on the basis of this surah, saying, if you want to know understand anything, there's 4 things that you need to know, and you'll know everything about that thing. And so this is this class I'm taking. So when I broke it down, like I said, it was like, what's the purpose of going on this trip? It was the conference call and the purpose, make sure we were all on one accord, bonding with everyone, learning more patience. That's that growth we have to do in our religion. It's a way of life and the growth. And then represent India. So when we went and actually went to Medina, and we get out the car, I see it's not anything like I thought. I kept hearing this suburbs of Hattiesburg. So I'm thinking it's house, but it wasn't like that. It was like 3 or 4 acres a house, 3 or 4 acres a house. There was some walking. It was good exercise. But it reminded me and brought back to my memory of Imam Fahim and his teaching, which is talking about the jewelry. That's how you, the jewelry. And it's that 5 aspects of intellect, self, property, community, and family, talking about building the ummah, the jewelry. I might be saying it wrong, the jewelry. But this is what we were going for, right? To see how they were doing this. And so when you heard Imam Akbar, which I heard, and he was saying we, it's because when we were there, they were saying, as they were talking about their progress, they said, you included too. You part of this ummah. So you know, ummah is not just this. Ummah is all of this, and them, and everywhere we go, and building that. And so building is getting that vision. And so seeing what they had done could bring that vision to what we would do. Now, I'm not the one on the technical stuff of what they were doing, because I was like a busy butterfly running from place to place trying to find out where to fish, when the horse is coming, things of this nature. But as I went through sitting there, I met some people, and that's what was interesting to me. As they said, they came from all over. So at this masjid, they have an overhang. And they had 2 desks on each side. There was a little student desk where you had to scoot in them and sit there. So I found that to be a good spot all the time while we were waiting on the next event or a prayer time or what have you. And as people came in and came out, they would stop there and talk. And this is where I met a lot of people. And I met some people from Baton Rouge, with a sister I met from there, who I had never spoke to anybody personally about Katrina, the impact it took and the displacement of their families. So as I was talking to her and she was telling me about this and how she had moved from New Orleans to Baton Rouge, she was saying that she was so grateful to Allah that she had a big family and that they were close. So when the displacement came about, then they were able to come back together because they were close. They looked for each other. And so when I heard that and the reflection of it, it made me think about us and how we must maintain our closeness. If we are to build our community strong, we have to start with what we got, and we got to build it strong. So when others come, it's established. Because that's what happened there. That's why we were welcome. So those people had established the closeness. I don't know one person that was there that nobody didn't know who they were, but me, running around there. Who are you? Email. Oh, you email. Okay, go here, go there, whatever. But I'm sure they know me about the end of this. I had some experiences of running from a horse, no fishing, trying to get them to fish out turtles and take turtle stew, and they were like, no. So I was really, at the end of the trip, even Dr. Ali said, and a lot of the brothers and sisters there, I think that's what they're going to know me by, the sister that was running around trying to find a fish hole, because I had my fishing pole. I had a sister, these people were good people. We were in a banquet. I went and asked her, could I put my fish bait in her freezer? And she said, yeah. I was shocked, because I was going to give her the long story of what happened. And then I have to apologize and then thank Sister Ebony and Email, because I'd accidentally left the fish bait out too long or something, and it tore their room up. But they were patient anyway. They never said nothing until the whole thing was over and we talked about it. But this is how these people were established, with loving each other. So the love was there. We just came and embraced it. So when she said that, this sister from New Orleans said that about her family trying to find each other after these storms. And she mentioned another storm. I don't know which one it was. But she said, this time I'm not running. And so I was like, but you're going to go on the roof or something, right? And she said, yeah, I'm not suicidal, nothing but she said, what I'm saying is that I'm not running anymore. She said, I'm here to see where this can be our center point moving forward, and go back and tell my children we need to do something, get something. That was the whole point. And so that was my reflection on that conversation with her, because another thing was that there's a verse in Proverbs, and I remember this. Proverbs of the Bible is my favorite book in the Bible. and it's all about wisdom. And it says something, and I'm paraphrasing here about, it's better to stay in contact than to wait till something's wrong and then contact people that you hadn't contacted in a long time. It's something to that effect. And so, you know, when disasters happen like that, the point is her saying, we were close. I got a close family. She's saying I got a big family, and when we got displaced, we found each other, and we all got back together. So I thought of that and thinking of that in place of us. Sometimes we go, we come, but we gotta learn and start building on each other, because even the Quran say, or Hadith say, you're supposed to go, what, 3 months, 3 days or something without calling. I know,
3 days.
yeah, and I know that that's a lot, but we all must keep in touch. We gotta keep in touch. I thought about that, of us growing and staying strong with each other. So that was one thing. One of the other sisters I met, she was the matriarch, and I believe this is the one. See, my thing is that I took pictures of everybody and put it by their name, because I wouldn't have remembered their names, but I took pictures with them so I kind of could know them. But this was like the matriarch of the village, and I believe that is, remember her husband is the one that does the beehives? I believe that little girl is her granddaughter. Yes. So as I'm walking through there looking for, trying to ask about fishing holes, anyway, that was pretty much my whole thing, looking for a fishing hole or when the horses is going to come. And so she and I would meet up together, and then we would walk. And it was like walking through a village with the matriarch. Because she had her hands behind her like this, and we would just walk. And she was just talking and telling me about how her husband do the bees, and then said, like, if you want something, all you do is they have to come, and he'll just go get it and pour it in the jar. It was so unique to speak to her, and I found that every time I was out there on one of my ventures, she would find me and come and like, lead me back, because I was still looking for stuff, you know. So that was really, she was really good. She left me with such great feeling, and I said, it's such a great pride to be a matriarch and to live and work to get to that point, you know. And it was beautiful for that. And then she had a little, one of the times she said, well, yeah, I'm going to go on down here. She showed me where she lived. She said, yeah, I got to walk on down here and go get some sugar. So she went her way, and I ventured on to the next, probably to the center, I think it was. And eventually I came out, I ran into her again, but it was like hours later. I was like, wow, did you have to pull a cane and grind and make the sugar? You know, we laughed about it, but she was always saying, I'll be back to you. And she literally kept coming back and finding me and walking with me and talking. So that was beautiful. It was really beautiful. It was a good feeling. And so there was another sister. Am I running out of time? Oh, okay. So the other sister, she was traveling. I met her. She was from Chicago, and she used to travel to Senegal, Africa. And she asked me about that, and I said, no, I was scared. You know, they acting up over there. And she was telling me about how it was. And so it was beautiful, and she even invited me to come travel with her sometime. And the thing is that it was an enlightenment, because we have these things in our mind that the media puts there to show all that negativity, and then you don't know anything else. But she showed me a difference. There was a sister from Oakland that was there. She came up and she was asking, did we want some avocados? She went to the store or something. And as I looked at her, I kept saying, are you from Oakland, California? She went to Masjid Bilal the same time I went. And I started naming her husband and some people, and she said, yeah. You know, so it's been years. It's been years since I've been that way, but I recognized her. There was a brother that I had been working with him on Zoom. He would have a Zoom when we go, and we was talking about kind of like New Medina, getting things to do our own. He ended up being there. So it was good seeing everybody that I had seen before, far away or on Zoom, saw them in person. My teachers, both of them were there. And I hadn't been a great student, but they knew me, because I was one of them that didn't never show up, but I'd holler at them, turn my homework in, but they never saw me. So that was nice. And then last but least, thinking of that whole experience, that old saying about it's a small world after all, it really is. It really is a small world. And so with that, and knowing that we're talking about Ummah and building our relationships and strengthening us here, I think us coming back to tell you our experience, so inshallah next year, we have a new delegation that would go. Although I got to go, but they promised me they're going to have a fishing hole this time I go. But
They owe you a fishing.
yeah, they owe me a fishing hole. But this is what we have to, I believe, we need to do. And one more thing. One sister told me that her and another sister had a little bump head on something. And she said, then after that, they apologized and moved on. She was talking about the love that they had for each other. So, I'm doing a lot of
Here,
that.
can you feel the excitement? Yeah. All right, we'll take the mic from your sister. And certainly, last but certainly not least, we want to go ahead and introduce our last presenter. Well, he's no stranger here locally, but for our Facebook audience, he is one of our board members, and he's also our project manager as we get to embark and follow the beautiful example of New Medina. I give to you, Brother Doug Small.
Assalamu alaikum, with Allah's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. We acknowledge his messenger and slave servant, Muhammad ibn Abdullah, 49 years. First, I will apologize because I must leave to take my wife to the airport, and I leave at 3:30, so my time is short. The good news is, most of my sentiments have already been echoed by all of the people here, as well as my subject, which was supposed to be to give you all the background on New Medina, and since this was my area of project management, it's already been mentioned, 63 acres of land they started with. They actually started with a strategic plan, which included a blueprint. They also have expanded now to 200 acres. Just a note on that, they made us aware that if a person or people came to purchase land, it would not necessarily be on the original 63 acres. And what they're encouraging people to do is to buy acreage around this vicinity, because in order to become a municipality, it requires 640 acres or a square mile. So right now, the expansion is up to 200 acres. This is people who have come and they've purchased home sites, some of them not even within eyesight of the original 63, but within that perimeter, okay? One of the advantages of a municipality is, of course, services. You get a tax base, so therefore you can, you have to have at least 6 paved roads. They already have that part filled. I think Akbar Isha mentioned the 300 residents. I think somebody else mentioned that they would need to have a city council or a, kind of a rulership. This was all the areas that I was going to cover more in depth, but since I don't have the time and they've been mentioned, I'm just kind of doing the highlights. So as far as the progress that they have made, that's also been mentioned, that they have a designated amount of land for a resort. The only other thing I want to add to that is that they're using the concept of tiny houses. I'm sure many of you have seen this on HDTV. So these are self-contained houses. They can be as little as a couple hundred square feet up to 400 or 500 square feet. But they're fully, there was one that was completed, but it was locked at the time we were taking the tour. So we didn't get a chance to see that. And there's a second one, I think, that's presently being constructed for completion. So I think most of what I was going to cover has already been covered. The people that are living there There's one family that is Christian, and as it was mentioned, they stated that they wanted to be there because they felt the safest. There's another Jewish family there. They are African American, these two, and then there's a Hebrew Israelite family that is there. So the diversity kind of mirrors Old Medina. Okay. The thing that I really want to say personally, though, was that what was not mentioned was the Friday Khutbah was done by the associate imam from Atlanta, and you may remember his name. I did. Brother was on fire. He's a shining star. So hopefully when they get the video out, everyone gets to hear it. The workshops were back, especially the one on premarital counseling. I have never heard such an in-depth one. I was tempted to ask the man, do you have a template, and is this standard for the association? Because it was very comprehensive. It was really common sense, and I think it covered all of the areas because he gave examples, real world examples that all of us could relate to. Everything from, the brother said his name was Abdul Rahman, Suleiman, Muhammad, and his name really was, Buki, Joe, whatever, right, down to situations that occur when people have children from another marriage, the agreement that you should have on how you visit them, whether the man should be in the presence of the ex-wife, if the present wife is comfortable, just a plethora of things that you may not think of before you get married, And so and that there should be a written agreement. I was just floored with the idea that he said within the Muslim community, there were people who had been married by people who had stated themselves as imams. They had no paperwork, nothing, no marriage license, nothing legal to show that they were married. And then Sister Nisa Dawan, she gave a state of the world, so to speak, which was a broad topic, but she really narrowed it down, and what she focused on was that we need to focus on self. And one of the biggest things she focused on was how we're treating ourselves, our bodies, how we're eating, the things we're putting into ourselves, and the results of it. So it was really refreshing. Everything was really enlightening in all of the workshops. That's what I should have concentrated on, because y'all had the rest of it. But as everyone stated, the warmth of the people, the familiarity of the people. I met two couples that grew up in my neighborhood, one 2.5 blocks away from me. One brother, I recognized him because he was albino and he was an imam. There was only one albino in that neighborhood. So I knew that was him when his wife said where they lived. So it was a great experience. It's one I think everybody should have. The model is definitely there. We're in a prime position to build and have so many examples that are they've already been extrapolated out from where they started, the problems they had, how they worked them out, to what the outcome is. So we couldn't ask for a better example. So thank you all for your time and attention.
Takbir. Give our brother a round of applause. Takbir. Takbir. Brother Doug, I know you're running out hot. Is there any question you all have? We're not going to go much longer, but we do want to hear from you all. As Brother Doug is packing up his stuff and leaving, anything you want to direct towards him before he leaves?
Brother Doug, fine. I just wanted to know, do they have like builders that they assign to you, or they have a company that they're builders, and they'll talk to you about the acreage, and you want to buy 2 or 3 acres, and then they work with you because there's so many programs that would assist if you want to relocate there. You maybe get 2 acres, and the builder himself will assist you, you know, in the cost and all that. Did they have that established already?
Well, first let me say this, is that, right now, there are several people who purchased land when the original 63 acres was there and found they would not be able to build or live there. So they have outlined on their plan the available acreage now that is being sold by these individuals, and I think it was 3 or 4 lots that's available. Also, Dr. Ali and his wife are contractors. So while we was on the tour, they gave an example to Sister Ebony and Imam Akbar. They was talking about they wanted to buy an acre, what would it cost to build a house. We was passing a couple of houses at the time, and they mentioned that for a 1,200 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, kitchen, living room house, it would be approximately $130,000 to build. Yeah. So that was real eye-opening. Also, when they established this community, they established covenants to protect it. So because of one of them is that you cannot put a trailer house on it. And of course, that's to preserve the property value of everyone, as well as the look of the community. So the brother who's a Hebrew Israelite does have one, but under the covenant, he has 1 year to
Convert it, yeah.
So it's like they have already established an HOA, is what we call it.
No, it's they don't call it that, but when you build, you can have covenants. And HOA is an organization that tends to enforce or oversee the covenants that were established. They don't have an HOA per se.
But they enforce and oversee it.
Well, the covenants are enforced and overseen. Yes. An HOA, in turn, though, can have a lot of very specific things. These are land covenants and very general. They don't tell you what plants you can put in and, whether or not you can put a plastic shed in the back versus build one that's the same material as your, I know all of mine. You gotta have a concrete porch, you can't put a wooden one. That they don't have those kind of things in place. HOAs will get very specific in what they can say. If you can put your garbage in out front or not, if your heating unit can be covered or whatever. But anyway, my time has run out. So.
And just to give you some clarity too, each acre only allow one house because they only have one septic per. So when you're talking about a couple of acres, yeah, well, you can buy an acre, but then another acre, only one house on each acre. So we're just talking about more acres, that's all I was saying. So you'll understand.
Yeah, that's very good, because if you want a home, you off the back understand I'm only can put one home per acre.
Right.
Well, that's that 1,200 feet. 1,200 feet with the 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
Oh, that would take up an acre, 1,200
No, it
feet?
wouldn't take it, but it makes sense.
Yeah, but it's something about the septic tank is what it is. Yeah, each one have one
The
septic
field
tank.
for the septic tank, it requires a field, and that's why an acre is the minimum you have, because it has a field that contains the water in the septic system.
Yeah.
So it's area of land that.
How much are the acres?
The acres now are 5,000 to 6,000. When they moved there, they were 2,500. But they don't establish the price. The county does. Whoever comes and appraises the land.
And then I found out that, let's say you purchased it, Imam Bilal, they call him Colonel Bilal, say, when you purchase it, if you put up the structure and have the cover, and that's it, then they can't up the price on nothing because you've got that structure. You ain't gotta have no furniture, nothing necessary, but if you have that structure on that acre, and let's say you leave it there, high up, whatever, as prices go up and stuff, it won't impact yours. It was a lot of, and just to say this, in the Quran or the Hadith, they say we're supposed to want for our brothers and sisters what we want for ourselves. When somebody tells you all these details, when somebody tells you all these details on how to do this, how to do that, you can tell they they want the same success that they've had,
Mm-hmm.
the same success for you.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the brother, he even offered me to go and I could pick some greens and stuff. I forgot, I'm so busy about that fish language. But he told me I could go back to his farm and pick some greens and corn and stuff he had back there. But you know, I got distracted. But he was telling me how to start a small. Was you with that? Sister Ebony, do you remember something about the gardens, the vegetable gardens, us planting gardens? Because he was saying how to do that, and I could picture something of us doing.
Yeah, a lot of them, they have their own mini gardens and whatnot. They also raise the halal chicken and the cows. And somebody that was surprising. It really was. I saw it not too far from where we were. They this brother had about 6 or 7 cows, and you know you see them when they go going home in the evening, whatever. But they have a lot of area for that kind of thing. Just plain out looking at it, you know you can grow something good over there because it's just the land looks rich, you know. So.
Is there any swimming pool?
Yes, where we were at Dr. Ali's house, he had a swimming pool in his home, and it was very nice. We had, by the way, this another one of the good things that happened. The ambassador from the United States, he's the ambassador to Senegal. He was there, and he was honored the night before at one of the banquets. And so after that, the next day we went over to Dr. Ali and his wife's home, and he cooked. He did all the cooking, and he has like all these restaurants in Atlanta. He's 50 years old.
That man was 50 years?
He's 50 years
I was
old.
saying that boy.
He and his wife. I mean, he has all the, and he had a secret sauce for the hamburger. They were good. And the thing about the experience, because hamburger, I'm eating beef. I don't eat a lot of it. It was real. And the other thing is, he cooked it on that grill, and it was done all the way through, but it was still soft. So he knows what he's doing. But he had some things to say that were really very exciting. It's good to see that energy, because if for us and our, we have a lot of seniors in our community, but there we know those are our children. That's our future.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on Sister Revere, because when you were saying how people want, if you want to grow a home in a community, the way Imam Muhammad Muhammad introduced New Medina as a concept for all of us, everything I want, I have to give it. I have to give it to you. I have to. And Quran speaks about just giving. The more you give, the more your heart, the more. That's everything that y'all saw inside of us, the charity. Because they know that in doing that, that's going to bring all of us, bring us together. So that was a natural, what you really witnessed. And you want the community.
And while being there thinking of y'all, while you're sitting there and you're listening to all this, the thoughts is, that sister like that. That brother like doing that. It was thinking of all of us.
That's right.
And seeing the faces and the people and the ideas. You all were coming to mind about, the what's that, the dishwater cake or whatever that is you made? The dump. Yeah. Well, yeah, the dump cake, Or remember when you used to do the trying to get the sisters and brothers to come together? Okay, well, see that. And the imam, remember he talked about that? And so, these things came to mind while being there and thinking. And then not only that, the imam was recognized. It gave me this situation of saying, I am in the company of some honorable people. Starting from here on over to New Medina. And I mean, I didn't know that was the ambassador, and I was teasing with him, take a picture, all that, and playing with the little girl. Didn't have no idea who he was. But the point is that it was thinking about us. So Imam was highly recognized. In fact, one of the sisters that was a vendor, she was getting out the car, and I guess he had helped her pack her stuff up from the pavilion. And she was just so taken. She said no imam has ever helped her pack her stuff up. I know, and when she was saying that, I was like, ooh. And she said, eat him. And he was coming back, I said, oh yeah, that's imam. Yeah. So it was a very honorable, and not only that, but I just want to say, imam, you're our leader here at MBR, and I always got my eyes on you, checking what you say, how you say it, why you say it, what have you, because I want to know if I'm following why, you're a leader, and sometimes I check it by other things going on. And so Imam Fahim has a class on Salat. So I went to one of them, and everything he said, I just want you to know that I said, ooh, Imam do that, because he was talking about the techniques and stuff. And so I want y'all to know we got a good Imam. Imam Omar make sure he's trying to do everything correct. And so I just want you to know and have faith in our Imam. And the reason I say that is because if Allah calls him, then whoever steps in here got big shoes to fill. And I think that's why we need to know. If you don't mind me saying, amen. Allah called him, whoever come up next to want to represent us, we need to know. So I'm letting you know. I email be correct. So anybody coming, whatever, they got to come correct. I just want you to know.
Allahu Akbar. Thank you, Sister Rabia. Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
Alhamdulillah, as usual in this world, the flight got changed. So she's got to go tomorrow. So if there were any additional questions.
Well, actually, not a question. I'm still on the building a community. That is so important. That as a young sister, I learned that from Imam Muhammad. His entire, he had a big agenda, but first thing he wanted to transform our thinking, and he wanted us to learn how to be a community of intelligent people, and that were examples for society. And so, I said that to say this. Titles are good, but what I get when I listen to this, these beautiful souls that y'all are around for the weekend, when the sister was saying, well, I didn't know that was the imam. They probably didn't even, they didn't care that you, what they, sounds to me is that they wanted you to see that we are caretakers. I don't need you to know that I'm imam such and such. That will do what it do, but that's the part of bringing in other characteristics in us, because even within the community, we have our internal struggles, right? And this is what Imam Muhammad, his whole time, tried to bring us in involvement of, right? Being caretakers, loving each other, caring about each other, understanding, transforming our thinking through the Quran, right? Not so much society, because society is such a big influence, but I'm happy that I was able to hear all that y'all went through. It has changed, Imam, because I'm very familiar with it as well. I didn't get to visit, but as soon as New Medina brought into existence, in Houston, we had an entire, something similar to this. And the ones who went, you were probably there, because when you were saying, I've been there a few times, you probably, Imam Shakir, as you mentioned, nobody has to tell me about him. I know he's an outstanding leader in the community. I think many people that know him, they're not even in San Antonio, will tell you he's a very unique imam. And so, they came back and we did a session like this, and they were very excited. And, for the groundbreaking, came back, shared the groundbreaking and you know, and so just listening to you all, I can tell it has grown and it has changed a lot. So now I'm like, wow, so, you know, I'm getting old and getting some age and I want somewhere where I can settle and be at peace and don't have to worry about the gun shooting and can I go down there and get shot, you know, and so yes, I just wanted to say that mostly that we have to become caretakers to one another, you know, we're not going to always see eye to eye, but I think it was, sister, you said they had a little mishap and squashed it and kept going because they knew what the mission was. It wasn't about them. Yes, it was bigger than them.
Takbir.
Allahu Akbar.
Sisters,
I just wanted to respond to one of the things that Sister and I had said. Dr. Ali was saying that for some people, you don't have to necessarily consider having the home site as you have to move there permanently or right now, whatever. But you can have it as a place you come. Right, because for sure, if there was anything that I think everybody would have said and felt was that there was no time that you felt threatened in any kind of way or fear in any kind of way. It was very peaceful is what I'm saying. The setting was a very peaceful setting. I mean, if you're a person that just being out in a rural area, you're concerned about, snakes or other things like that. That's understandable because it is rural.
Yeah.
But I meant in terms of safety, in terms of, the types of things that cities present, drive-bys, people driving crazy, people walking the street that have mental illnesses and things like that. None of that was present. None of that was present. And one of the other things that he stated was that, somebody was asking about the funding part of it, and he said, we'll work with you because we're listeners. And it's not about the money. And so I took that to mean that, if there's a concern that, maybe I can't come up with 6,000 at one time, there may be a way to work it out. But the other part I wanted to impart, it was generally spoken on, I think Akbar said, this community had such a profound effect on city government. They gave one example was when they had the note, of course, on the land and everything. And one of the brothers who was one of the founding members was asked to go to the bank to pay it off. And so he went there and he had cash.
speak up, Brother Doug.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Me?
Yes.
Is that better?
Or just hold it.
Okay. Any? Okay. Disregard the commentary.
As Sister Ebony said, this was our whole trip. Like that, you are witnessing in real time our experience together.
I thank God for patience. But the brother went to the bank and he had an appointment, of course, with the banker. And when he told him that he was paying the loan off, the banker said, "Where did y'all get all that money? Was this what you all got from you?" Speaking of the opening when there were 5,000 people was there. And so he politely told him, I don't think that should be your concern, but we're here to pay off the loan. So when the transaction was completed, the banker said to him, he says, if you ever need anything, come and see me personally. He said, and time went by, he actually did need it. He had a brother who needed a loan.
Mm-hmm.
And he went to the bank and let him know what the circumstances was and everything. And the day he was going back to sign for the loan, when he got there, the banker told him, your brother already has the money and he's gone.
Allahu
He
Akbar.
said, well, I haven't even signed for it yet. So they had established that kind of integrity with him. So for most of us, I know for myself growing up, Mississippi was always a dark state. And when we had to travel through, normally when you're on 10, you come from Louisiana, we gas up at the last stop before we had to go to Mississippi. Get past that to Alabama and coming back, it would be the same thing. This is the first time that I have ever purposely went anywhere in Mississippi to visit. And I thank Allah for it being a very pleasurable experience. Everything from the staff at the hotel, in terms of the people who greeted us and so forth, to the stops that we made, the few stops we made there. We went in one night, but I think I can say we had a really good experience. The people were very pleasant, very respectful, and it didn't look contrived. You know, it appeared to be genuine. Now, if someone had said that to me before, let's go to Mississippi or anything, all of the bad memories would come to sight. Are you kidding? Why? You know. So I think that the way has been made for us, and I think the public relations that we're doing is good for everyone. And I totally agree.
Allahu Akbar. New Africa in Mississippi. That's a
Alhamdulillah.
miracle in itself, ain't it, brother?
Yes, absolutely.
And didn't somebody say getting a bank started? Isn't Dr. Ali, he's working on the bank?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yes.
They are in fact working on establishing a bank. That's another thing. It was so much information. Honestly, in a weekend, there was so much. And the other thing I wanted to say was, everyone who was a part of the New Medina community, the residents, had a servant attitude. I mean, a really humble and servant attitude. They were working all the time. I had no idea that Sister Donna, who is Dr. Ali's wife, was his wife. I mean, she was checking us in, you know, and she was always busy. The only time I saw her idle was at her house, and she really wasn't idle then. You know? But yeah, so I'm not going to add anything else. If anybody else wants to say something or share something,
Yeah,
or have a
we're
question.
winding down. These Taleems are usually an hour and a half long.
Okay,
So yeah,
I'm gonna just share some real
No, I'm just saying, any final comments? We're winding down. Yeah, you're good.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, the whole time I was there, every time we went to the banquet to eat, for some reason, my plate would collapse. I don't know why, but it would either collapse this way or the food would fall out the plate. So each time, was it about 100 people there, at least,
You need
at the banquet, when we went in to eat?
Oh, yeah.
And out of all of them, for some reason, when I got my food, as soon as I stepped away, I was like Hansel and Gretel. Food just followed me where I sit. So the last day that we were there was eating. This is talking about servants, as you were saying, Brother Doug. Well, first of all, when I got my plate, I don't know, I think it might have been Sister Ebony said, Sister Rabia, to tell me to carry my plate like this. And so when I did get to the table, another sister came and said, let me get you your drink and dessert, because I had made it without all my food spilling. So that was really nice, and I was like, okay, you know. So that was really nice of them to do that. Just talking about serving. And one thing or other, I ended up, every time I stepped outside, I had a headache. So my first dose of Tylenol, I was emptying Imam's little packet After that, I graduated to over to Sister Ebony, and then my last time I upgraded to Brother Doug on Henning. Yeah, but I'm just saying how we took care of each other, and thank y'all.
Allahu Akbar. Excellent, excellent. Alaikum assalam.
To me, the travel was one thing. Put that to the side. It was because I don't know. I don't. However it goes. I mean, I know I'm in the hands of Allah. I have to just leave it right there. But every time you were in contact with all the people, different people that were there, it was kind of the same response all the time, helping you, leading you, showing you, giving you something. But all the khutbah, the talks that we were receiving, the information from all the different people, oh, just beautiful, just things that you need, practical information that helps you. And the last one thing that I could see was that it said, use the knowledge and skills that you have to create and progress in your own community. Because we all have it. Everybody has something special about them. That's what for me and all of us. We saw that. When you travel with somebody, you know that. You know that for sure. And I'd like to see us all continue to work more together, trust in each other. We're on the same mission.
Yes, yes.
And if we could just do that and know and understand that it takes each one of us, not just one of us, it takes each one of us to work together in order to make this be the success that we're seeking for ourselves and our children and our families. Because the only thing that I have that is regretful to me that my husband probably thinks, well, what do you think of that? That I wish I had about 40 more years that I could probably give to working on this because it was that awesome.
Imam Isa, any words you want to share with us, Brother Imam? Imam Isa?
Absolutely. I just wanted to say, the company that I was in, the company that I kept, was awesome. Brother Doug, Imam, Sheriff, Sister Rabia, and my dear wife. If I'm glad today, I'd rather be in that company.
I heard you have a need for
So
speed.
people at San Antonio, you have a real classy group of people to lead you. And that's all I have, man. But thank you. I want to thank all the community. Appreciate it.
I just want to say, Zarina did have something to say, and she's my sister, so I have to let her have her voice.
Say it.
And she says she learned that. Let her say.
We learned that you have the need for speed, ma'am.
She put your resume.
I put the resume so that's what he said. He said somehow he had a sense that storm we met when we came in was going to be here. So he did get us here ahead of us. Amen.
Dear family, Facebook audience, can you see the excitement? It's hard to cut this energy off. It's hard to stop it. We just want to invite you to experience New Medina. It is exciting. It should make us be proud with the little p, what Allah is blessing us to do. This is our association. This is Imam, the community of Imam W.D. Muhammad. And Imam asked us to give him a good home. He knows that once he returns to Allah, his work is over. So we don't want to make his work be in vain. We want to support and continue to establish his legacy. I thank Allah, Sister Rabia, Brother Doug, Imam Isa, Sister Ebony, thank y'all so much for presenting today. Thank you for being with us, and I'm glad you experienced it because now us five have an obligation to infuse that spirit in our community. With that, dear Allahu Akbar, Takbir. With that, we'll close out. With Allah's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. Oh Allah, we seek thy refuge from anxiety and grief. We seek thy refuge from lack of strength and laziness. We seek thy refuge from cowardice and stinginess. We seek thy refuge from being overpowered by debt and oppression of human beings. O Allah, suffice thou us with what is lawful to keep us away from what is prohibited, and with thy grace make us free of want, is what is beside thee. Peace to you, dear family. Assalamu alaikum. Ameen.
Yes.